Hi, I am Sachin from Accelerate AI, and in this video, I'm going to talk about the similarities and differences between data science, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. I've seen a lot of people using these terms interchangeably, but according to me, that is not right because there is a considerable difference between these. So let's dive in and understand these. Data science is an interdisciplinary field. Data science term was coined by DJ Patel and Jeff Hammer back in 2008. According to them, data science is the use of scientific methods, processes, and algorithms to extract insights and knowledge from data and apply that to a broad range of application topics. So what does this mean? Let's try to understand it with a few examples. Walmart is the world's largest retailer and also the world's largest company by revenue. It captures real-time transactional data from all its stores, and this data can run into several petabytes for just a week of sales. It analyzes all this data in near real time to understand its analysis of the products sold, which products are selling well and which are not selling well. Another example of UPS. UPS is the world's largest courier company by revenue. It ships over 5.5 billion packages per year, which amounts to about 19 million packages daily. It captures all this information about its packages, but it also operates over 125,000 vehicles, of which 50,000 are trucks. It has sensors fitted on most of its trucks, and it captures all this telematics data from its 50,000 trucks. This data contains information like the speed, the direction, location, braking, drivetrain performance, engine performance, fuel usage, and so on. One of its data science tool called Orion creates optimal routes for its 50,000 trucks using all of this data and advanced routing algorithms. Using this optimal routes, UPS has been able to save over $100 million annually. Another tool called NPT, or Network Planning Tool, optimizes the flow of packages through its network. We can talk about another example, LinkedIn. LinkedIn is one of the largest professional networks in the globe, and probably the oldest professional network as well. LinkedIn has over 500 million users in 200 countries. LinkedIn tracks all of our activities in its website, likes and shares and connection requests and so on. And using all of this data, it tries to enhance its members' experience. So it tries to recommend us people whom we may already know, looking at whom we are connected with and how those people are connected with others and so on. It also uses text mining and sentiment analysis to figure out offensive items and then scan them off. So these are some examples of data science. Artificial intelligence is a very broad term, and the meaning of this term has kept changing as the field developed. The term was originally coined by celebrated computer scientist John McCarthy. He was a professor of computer science in Stanford University. So according to him, artificial intelligence is the study of machines or algorithms that mimic cognitive functions, which he usually associate with humans, such as learning and problem solving and logic and vision and speech and so on. Now let's try to understand these also with a few examples. We all are familiar with Siri on iPhones. Siri is a good example of an artificial intelligence system where you can give a command to Siri with your voice. It understands what that command means, executes that command, and also responds back to you in a human language. Another example of AI system is Sophia the robot. It has very lifelike features. When it responds, it also tries to mimic the way a human's facial expressions would change and so on. It also tries to converse in what seems to be a very intelligent way of conversing. So these are examples of artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence includes things like logic, It could also include things like motion planning and robotics, and search, and definitely learning. So machine learning is one of the most important aspects of artificial intelligence or data science. The term machine learning was coined by Arthur Samuel. According to him, machine learning is the field of study that gives computers the ability to learn without being explicitly programmed. As we know earlier, each and every rule has to be programmed in a machine to work. But with the advent of these kind of learning algorithms, we no longer have to know all the different rules and how one variable is connected to the other and so on. Machine learning algorithms try to figure those out on their own once you provide them sufficient data. So this was quite a paradigm shift. So as I said, machine learning are different types of algorithms which try to learn from the data. Some of these algorithms are shown here. Linear regression, as an example, is an algorithm in which we try to fit a line on the given data set and then use that line to do predictions. Random forest is an algorithm in which we try to create multiple decision trees by changing the data a little bit. This technique is known as bagging technique. And then using a set of those decision trees, we try to maybe do some kind of classification or a regression task. Support vector machine is an algorithm in which it tries to classify our data depending on which side of a hyperplane that data lies. So try to come up with these kind of hyperplanes which divide the data into different classes. Artificial neural networks, something which is becoming very, very popular now. This is an algorithm in which multiple perceptrons are connected to each other in what are called as layers. And then we try to learn the weights of and how these perceptrons are connected to each other. One of the parts of machine learning, which is now called deep learning, is again becoming very popular. And deep learning utilizes artificial neural network. In deep learning, these neural networks have multiple hidden layers, anywhere between 10 to maybe 100 hidden layers. And we try to accomplish tasks like tagging a picture, with what kind of a class it is, or maybe understanding of face recognition or voice recognition and things like that. So this is an active area of research now, and a lot of people are jumping into this area of deep learning. Let's try to understand machine learning a little bit more. So machine learning, there are multiple types of machine learning. Machine learning, as we discussed, are those type of algorithms which learn from data, right? So what is it it's learning? So in machine learning, we'll have a given function y as a function of some parameters, alpha, beta, gamma, and the data points itself, x1, x2, xn, and so on, which are the x1, x2 are the features in that data set. So machine learning algorithms tries to learn those parameters, alpha, beta, gamma, and so on. Now, machine learning is divided into three types of classes or groups. One is called supervised learning, in which the algorithm learns from labeled data. So we already from history know what the outcome has been or what the y was. And then we are trying to figure out the optimal alpha, beta, gamma, and so on. There's another type of machine learning, which is called unsupervised, where there is no label. Here, the algorithm tries to learn from the unlabeled data. So what does it learn? It tries to learn the underlying structure or grouping in the data, or maybe something which is very different from the rest of the data. And finally, there is this reinforcement learning. In reinforcement learning, there is no why, there is no structure. But in this type of learning, the algorithms try to make optimal decisions in a sequential way in order to achieve certain goal. As an example, the game of chess, where the computer will make a particular set of moves in order to finally win, right, or get that reward. So supervised learning, there are two techniques for it. One is called regression and the other is classification. In regression, we are trying to estimate a numerical value. So one example here that I've shown is, let's say we want to estimate the price of a house. We'll use a regression technique. There are many different types of regressions, but the simplest one is known as simple linear regression or multiple linear regression. So we would have historically gathered data about the price of the house as well as different parameters like its overall carpet area, the number of rooms it has, its location, and maybe the brand of the construction company and things like that, or the brand premium. And based on that, we would try to come up with a formula which will give us the price of a house in the future when we know all the other parameters. Another type of technique is called classification, in which here we have multiple classes or groups in which we are trying to classify this. We would already have in our historical data those classes defined. One example that I've shown here is a spam classifier as an example. So when you get emails, some of them could be spam, and we run a machine learning algorithm to then classify some of those emails as spam and move it into a spam folder. And we all know Google does this very, very well. So there are many, many different algorithms which will do classification. Now, in unsupervised algorithm, one of the common ones is called clustering, where we are trying to come up with some kind of underlying structure in the data, right? Data which are closer to each other but farther from others, and so on. One of those examples could be finding different clusters of customers or different segments of customers, and so on. Another type of unsupervised learning is association. One example of this is known as market basket analysis. In this analysis, we are trying to understand what are the things that customers buy together. Could be like apple and banana and oranges that they usually buy together, or could be bread and jam and eggs and so on. And the idea of this is to understand what are the things that people are buying together, and then maybe bundle them and give some discounts in order to increase their revenue. One of the famous examples of this is a case study where one of the retail companies found that in the US, on weekends, when people usually go to buy beer or diaper, they also buy beer, right? Or vice versa. And based on that, they started putting beer and diaper next to each other so that people can easily pick them together. Reinforcement learning, as I said, it's about an agent and its environment and how does it make sequential decisions in order to finally get rewarded. So this is heavily used in robotics and motion planning and so on. We would use things like dynamic programming and so on in reinforcement learning. Here are some of the other algorithms like Q-learning, Monte Carlo, and SARSA, and so on. So if we look at the relationship between all these things, data science, artificial intelligence, and machine learning, we now understand what they mean. The relationship could look like this. So, there is some kind of overlap between data science and AI, but they are not quite the same. Data science will have a few other things like interpretation and statistical inference and hypothesis testing, visualizing the data, and very, very importantly, storytelling, right? Going back to the business stakeholders and telling what all of this means and what actions they have to take. Whereas artificial intelligence is more about search and reasoning and planning, as we saw. It's about making intelligent machines. The commonality here is the prediction part, where machine learning is used both in data science and in artificial intelligence. And also deep learning, which is a part of machine learning. Now, finally, after talking about this, I'll also want to emphasize one point. There's a lot of similarity between machine learning and an animal like a parrot. Both of these will try to learn more and more the more data you provide, the more you speak to them. But none of these really understand what this means, like we humans do. And sometimes they will churn out garbage, like a parrot would occasionally speak nonsense. And these currently may seem intelligent in doing a particular task, but at the end, they are not that intelligent. They have only been trained to do a particular task very well. So I hope that was helpful. Again, my name is Sachin, and I'm from Accelerate AI. Thank you for listening.